Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. Welcome back to Policy and Rights here on Depictions Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs. And in this next segment, we're going to hear from Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland as she speaks with the press about automotive parks manufacturing in Newmarket, Ontario. She highlights measures from the federal government's recently announced plan to minimize the effect of rising inflation. She's responding to questions and reporters. She comments on Ontario Premier Doug Ford's call for her government to temporarily lower gas taxes in order to provide relief from the rising gas prices. She also is asked about the situation with COVID-19, and she says that we may be going back to wearing masks, and she's also calling for people, if they haven't done so already, to reach out and get their third or maybe their fourth vaccine dose. And she also makes a statement about protests happening in Ottawa for Canada Day, stating that local authorities are looking to ensure that safety is preserved and that everyone can have a safe and enjoyable time while visiting Ottawa, the capital of Canada. So listen to what is said in the next segment on different issues, and I did notice that this while in the briefing that she's having trouble hearing questions, especially those questions that may cause some adversity or may skirt issues around questioning policy for the Liberal Party. So listen very, very closely to what actually happens during this next segment.
Moving from working in finance to working here has been very inspiring for him, because he sees real things being made by people. And I have to say, I felt exactly the same way. And so I really just want to thank everyone for the tour, all the amazing workers who spoke to me. Very, very inspiring day, and great to see what's actually happening in one of the engine rooms of our economy. Alors, bonjour tout le monde. Tout d'abord, je tiens à souligner que les terres où nous sommes rassemblés sont situées sur les territoires traditionnels des peuples Wendat, Haudenosaunee et Anishinaabe, qui sont encore présents ici aujourd'hui. So it is great to be back in Newmarket with my colleague and friend, Tony Van Bynen, who is a great representative for your community, both here and in Ottawa. And I can tell you, when Newmarket, Aurora needs something, Tony is very quick to get on the phone with me or just to grab me in the lobby. And he's someone I listen to. I'm especially glad to be here at Exco Engineering. from a small garage in Scarborough in the 1950s to an international company making parts for some of the world's biggest car companies, EXCO is a true Canadian success story. It's businesses like EXCO, innovative, homegrown, Canadian headquartered companies that offer good, stable jobs that are exactly what we need to continue growing Canada's economy. It was really exciting for me to see the world-leading technologies being deployed here, to see firsthand that this is a company, this is a place that is the world leader in some areas of steel laser printing. It's a really big deal, and it's the kind of Canadian success that I think we as Canadians should really celebrate. It was also really exciting for me to see, and one of the gentlemen working downstairs talked to me about his own excitement in the way that EXCO is part of the shift to EVs. And I think that that is fantastic as well, and we're seeing that happening in the whole Canadian automotive and auto parts sector and supply chain. It's something our government is very enthusiastic about. It's where the jobs of today and of the future are, and thank you very much, Darren, and your team for being part of that. Whether it is investing in the skills and training our workers need, whether it is protecting NAFTA and our trading relationship with the United States, something I think people here know a lot about, and I do too, whether it's creating a national system of affordable childcare to help more women return to the workforce, or helping Canada to bring here to Canada more of the skilled workers our businesses need. Our government is working hard to help great Canadian businesses like this one continue to hire, continue to provide great jobs, continue to grow, continue to be competitive and world-beating. L'économie du Canada s'est relevée rapidement et avec vigueur de la pandémie. Nous avons connu la plus forte reprise de l'emploi parmi les pays du G7. Et le PIB réel du Canada est supérieur de 2,2% de ce qui était au plus fort de la pandémie. Mais je sais qu'aujourd'hui, l'inflation mondiale est une conséquence persistante de la COVID, et je sais que l'invasion illégale de l'Ukraine par Poutine et les politiques de zéro COVID de la Chine l'ont aggravé. De nombreux Canadiennes et Canadiens ont maintenant plus de difficultés à faire le plein et à faire leur épicerie. So Tony talked about a little bit about Canada's recovery from the COVID recession. And the fact is, Canada has had the most rapid jobs recovery in the G7. This is one of the places where you see that. Canada's economy, our real GDP today, is 2.2% higher than where it was when COVID first hit. But we also know that inflation, a global phenomenon which is a lingering result of the COVID recession and has been exacerbated by Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine and by China's COVID zero policies, is making life harder for a lot of Canadians. Canadians feel it when they go to fill up their tank or when they go to buy their groceries. And so what our government is going to do to help Canadians weather this latest storm is what we've been doing over the past 2 years of getting through COVID. And that is have a plan, work together, support each other. Our affordability plan includes an enhanced Canada's workers' benefit that will put up to $2,400 more into the pockets of low-income families starting this year. Cutting childcare fees by an average of 50% by the end of this year. A 10% increase in old age security for seniors 75 and over starting next month. A dental care program starting with children under 12 this year, a $500 payment this year to help people who rent and who are struggling with the cost of housing, and the indexation to inflation of supports like the Canada Child Benefit, the GST credit, the Canada Pension Plan, Old Age Security, and the Guaranteed Income Supplement. To give you a concrete example, for a couple here in Newmarket with an income of $45,000 and a child in daycare, this affordability plan could mean roughly an additional $7,600 on top of existing benefits. So more than 16% of their annual income this fiscal year. A senior with a disability, maybe living next door in Aurora, could benefit from over $2,500 more this year than she received last year. So this is real support, real new support to the most vulnerable people in our communities to help them at a time when the cost of living is a real challenge for many Canadians. These are measures that we have already accounted for in our AAA-rated fiscal framework. They are part of the fiscally responsible budget we tabled in April. But for the Canadians who need this support the most vulnerable Canadians, these measures represent new money, and they will make life more affordable at exactly the right time. Now, let me just conclude by saying, on the eve of Canada Day, this is a challenging time for the world, and it's a challenging time for Canada. But thanks to the smart, hard-working people of Canada, like the people who work at this world-leading plant and company, I really believe that there is no country in the world which is better positioned to survive and thrive in these turbulent economic times than Canada. Thank you very much. Ready to answer your questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Tessa. I'm from the CBC News. If you could answer the questions in both in English and French, that would be very appreciated. First question is, Premier Ford is calling on your government to temporarily lower the carbon tax. What is your response to that? And is there anything that you're looking to do to help with the high gas prices?
So when it comes to the price on pollution, I think that Russia's illegal war in Ukraine has actually made the green transition more urgent than ever. I really think that this war needs to make us understand as a world and as Canadians how important it is to shift to a green economy. And I have to say, being here today has made me more confident than ever in Canada's ability as a country to make that transition and to benefit from that transition. I mean, we are standing in a place which is one of the leaders of the shift to EVs, and in a company which is actually going to benefit as Canada and the world shifts to electric vehicles. We know that the most effective mechanism to accomplish that green transition is a price on carbon. It's a market mechanism that really works. And so I really think that now is a time to really be glad that in Canada we have a serious, predictable set of measures that will help our country make that green transition. And again, I really want to emphasize, I'm glad to get the question here, it's a transition that of course we need, for our children, maybe some of us have grandchildren, for the planet. It's a moral imperative, so we have to do it. But there are great jobs for Canadians in the green transition, and this company that we're standing in today is an example of that. And it's not a theory. This is a company that is part of the EV transition today and is a leader in moving towards it. So this makes sense in terms of the planet and the environment. It makes sense economically. Having said that, I absolutely understand that affordability, including the price of gas, including the price of groceries, is a real challenge for Canadians. I talked about some of the measures that are in place today, money coming right now, new money, to support the most vulnerable, and we're open to additional measures going forward should that be necessary. En français. En ce qui concerne le prix sur le carbone, c'est une mesure efficace, c'est une mesure qui fait du sens économique pour encourager la transition verte au Canada. Et je pense que la situation dans laquelle on se trouve aujourd'hui souligne l'importance de la transition verte. Je veux aussi souligner que ce que j'ai vu ici, à cette usine aujourd'hui, a souligné une autre réalité pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. Et c'est ce que l'économie canadienne est positionnée très, très bien pour la transition verte. Nous sommes et nous continuerons d'être les leaders dans la transition verte, et c'est une transition qui créera des bons emplois ici au Canada. En ce qui concerne l'abordabilité, bien sûr, c'est un enjeu important pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Le prix de l'essence, le prix des épiceries, vraiment difficile pour beaucoup de gens, et c'est pourquoi nous avons mis en œuvre des mesures qui sont là, des appuis, des soutiens qui sont là aujourd'hui pour appuyer les Canadiens les plus vulnérables. En disant ça, nous sommes toujours ouvertes, je suis toujours ouverte à penser des autres mesures, des autres choses qu'on pourra faire dans l'avenir.
So the follow-up question will be regarding the high gas prices as well. So what help can the federal government give small businesses that are dealing with the high gas prices?
So thank you for asking that as a follow-up, because the gas prices are a separate question from the price on pollution. And I will point out that when it comes to the price on pollution, that is a revenue neutral measure, and all the money that we collect from the price on pollution goes back to Canadian families. Here in Ontario, all of us are getting a check, and that really makes sense. And what it means is if you can find a way to save on your own costs, you can actually come out ahead. And that's the case for many Ontario families. When it comes to the price of gas, I think it's really important to emphasize that this is a global commodity. The price increase is being driven by one very terrible man, Vladimir Putin, and his illegal war in Ukraine. And all of us, when we go to fill up our cars and trucks with gas, if you want to get mad at someone, I would say first and foremost, get mad at Vladimir Putin, and let's continue to do what we're doing as a country, which is help the very brave people of Ukraine win that war and therefore end that war. In terms of support to Canadian people and Canadian businesses, with the price really of everything, I've outlined the affordability measures that are in place right now to support Canadians. Those are very appropriately targeted at the most vulnerable. They are part of our AAA rated fiscal framework, so it's part of finding the balance between providing support and fiscal responsibility, which is the right thing for the government at a time of high inflation. And the final thing I'll say on the economy is I know there are a lot of challenges a lot of people are facing, but something we were actually talking about today is we as Canadians, whether it's the CEO of a company or a political leader, sometimes we're not that good at letting people know what we are getting right. And I do think the very strong employment situation in Canada, the fact we have the strongest jobs recovery in the G7, and good jobs, like the ones that people here have, the fact that we are seeing strong economic growth this year, the strongest it is predicted in the G7, strong economic growth predicted to be the strongest in the G7 next year. That is really meaningful in the lives of Canadians, in the lives of Canadian small businesses. Très vite en français, nous comprenons que l'abordabilité, c'est un enjeu pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, les petites et moyennes entreprises, et nous sommes là pour eux. En même temps, nous devons et nous allons trouver un équilibre entre les mesures, les politiques qui vont soutenir les Canadiens et Canadiennes et une position fiscalité responsable qui est absolument nécessaire dans les conditions dans lesquelles on se trouve d'inflation au niveau élevé. Et je veux finir en soulignant une autre chose importante, et c'est que quand on parle du prix de l'essence, on doit toujours se rappeler qu'il y a une personne à cause duquel le prix de l'essence est si élevé. Et c'est Vladimir Poutine et son guerre illégale et barbare en Ukraine.
Thank you.
Brock Weir from the Auroran. I just wanted to know what, in terms of affordability, can you hear me okay?
It's not, acoustics are not great, but if I don't understand, I'll ask you to follow up.
In terms of affordability, it's also hitting agricultural communities, farmers. I wanted to know what the government's affordability plan is to minimize the hit on family farmers, agricultural producers, and food producers who are not only feeling inflation, but also the impact of tariffs.
Thank you for that question. And we were just, when we were looking at some of the work that the machinists were doing downstairs, I was reflecting on my very weak mechanic skills as assessed by my father on our family farm. He was not really impressed at the quality of my mechanical abilities. I tried hard, but I'm just not that good. So family farms are very close to me personally. I think that they're a really important part of communities like Newmarket, Aurora, and they're a very important part of Canada. When it comes to our government's support for farms, we've recently announced an increase in the amount of interest-free credit available for farms and farmers. I think that is really significant. I know that farms and farmers, many of them at least say to me that they are concerned about being able to get access to the trusted temporary foreign workers who they rely on, and that's something that our government invested in improving in the latest budget. And I would also say that now is a time that I think we rely as Canadians more on our farmers than ever, and is a time when the world is relying more on our farmers than ever. One of the consequences of the Russian invasion in Ukraine is to cut off Ukraine's food exports to the world. So maybe it's a good opportunity to say thank you to the Canadian farmers who are feeding us and the whole world.
Hello, Joseph Quigley with Newmarket today. I'm what's your public health experts are expecting another wave of COVID in the fall. What's your outlook like on managing the economy as that comes in, and there are any accompanying public health measures?
I am so sorry, I couldn't really understand. I just heard economy and public health and COVID.
I apologize.
My hearing is maybe not so good.
Public health experts are anticipating another wave of COVID in the fall. What's your outlook like on managing the economy through that, as well as any accompanying public health measures that might come into place?
Okay. Thank you for that question, which is extremely important. I'm very, very grateful because I think it's tempting to believe that COVID is totally gone, and you are doing a great job as a journalist drawing our attention to the fact that that's just not the case. I think something that we as Canadians, again, may not fully appreciate is just how effective we as a community have been at getting through the first 2 years of COVID. There was a study published this week that assessed Canada's COVID record and compared us actually to, in a group of 11 comparable countries, comparable degree of wealth. And we did the second best in that group. Only Japan did better when it came to death rate. And I can't emphasize how important that is to me. Had we handled COVID the way, say, the U.S. did, tens of thousands of additional people would have died. And what we should also reflect on is we managed to do that while keeping our economy intact. I've talked about how our jobs recovery is actually the strongest in the G7. People were worried coming out of COVID we would have permanent economic scarring, permanently low unemployment. We're now at the lowest unemployment rate StatsCan has ever recorded. Likewise, our GDP is now 2.2% above. So the first part of my answer is let's remember how we handled those first 2 years. Not perfect by any means and very unpleasant. But some of the things I think we learned were let's all get vaccinated as quickly as possible. Canada's very high 2-dose vaccination rate helped us a lot. So let's get our vaccines for the fall. Let's get our third, if you don't have a third dose, get it now. And let's all get ready to get a fourth dose that has been, particularly adapted for the new variants. That's, I think, the most important thing. It's something we can all do. And then when it comes to other action, I think we're going to need to be nimble, agile, be aware that we may need to bring in some of the measures that we've loosened. I'm not wearing a mask today. Maybe in the fall we'll all go back to needing to wear masks when we gather together. And I think we're going to need to remember the Team Canada approach to working together that really made a big difference.
Follow-up on the note of third, fourth doses. What's your outlook on potentially requiring that in spaces come the fall?
I remember very clearly, and I bet everyone in this room and every one of your readers remembers how absolutely enthusiastic, maybe even desperate, we were to get vaccines when they first showed up. I know one of my kids got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be first in line at a pop-up vaccine clinic to get her first dose. I think we all need to go back to that spirit of really understanding that if you get vaccinated, you can save your life and you can save the life of the vulnerable people around you. And I think, it's a job that all of us need to do, including journalists like you, is just reminding people, getting that, if you don't have a third dose, get your third dose. And if you are an older person who's eligible for a fourth dose or an immunocompromised person, get it now. And for the rest of us, I certainly am very much looking forward to getting my fourth dose in the fall as soon as they're available.
Thank you.
Don't let it throw you off. I'm going to be looking at my questions on the camera while you answer. So, asking on behalf of Zhao Li from City TV in Ottawa. tomorrow is supposed to be a celebration, Canada Day, but there's the potential for protests. What kind of concerns do you have around Ottawa protests, and what kind of messaging would you want to say to people that are potentially protesting?
Let me just start by saying tomorrow is Canada Day, and I am so proud of our country. I feel so lucky to be Canadian, and for me, and I think the vast majority of Canadians, Canada Day is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate how amazing our country is, how amazing our communities are, and how bright our future is. Without forgetting that we have a lot of problems, that we have a lot of work to do, but I think it's a day when we're allowed to actually say, you know what, we are really, really lucky, and it's not just luck, it's also the hard work of all of us that makes Canada such a great place. And that, I think, should be the theme, the thinking that we all bring to Canada Day. Optimistic and a recognition of our good fortune. When it comes to possible protests, I think it's important to say specifically about Ottawa that the local authorities have been very, very clear that they are going to do whatever is necessary to ensure the safety of the people of Ottawa and of the many Canadians who like to come to Ottawa, our national capital, on Canada Day to peacefully celebrate this national holiday. The Ottawa local authorities have been very clear. I absolutely am confident that they are determined and they will act, and all Canadians should know that they are going to do what needs to be done to keep the celebration of Canada Day in Ottawa safe, peaceful, and a real celebration for the people of Canada and, you know, the people of Ottawa. Thank you.
Severe security seen in and around the Hill, is this something that Canada is expecting to continue, or will we see things scale back in the future?
The question was the security on the Hill, will that continue?
Yeah, is this something that Canada is expecting to continue, or will there be a level of scaling back?
I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know for sure. What I will tell you is I'm the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister of Canada. I almost never have any security. When Secretary Yellen was here, you know, she's the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. She needs to be taken care of. She traveled in a convoy, and I rode my bike to the ROM to meet that convoy, and then they asked me to join the convoy for ease of the day. And our U.S. visitors said to me, well, actually the secretary said to me, she said, so you rode your bike here, I hear. How does your security detail feel about riding bikes to be with you? And I said, they don't, because I don't have a security detail. I just rode here by myself and locked up my bike and walked into the ROM. I think that is a great thing about our country. I think it is great that people in my riding see me at the grocery store, that they can stop me while I'm running in the ravines. They very often have specific issues they wish to raise, so that's something that keeps me in touch with how people are thinking. And I think that a real strength of Canada is that I feel safe being out there on my own. I hope that that can continue. And I think actually it's something that we as Canadians get to choose. We get to choose. Do we want to be a country where our elected political leaders can just be regular people and hang out in their neighborhoods? Or do we want to be a country where they're separated from the rest of us? I know what I prefer.
Any kind of messaging you like to get out to people that will protest? any kind of messaging you'd like to get out to people that want to protest?
Well, I think I said it already. I think, look, peaceful protest is an essential part of democracy. It's an important political right, and I am glad that we have it in Canada, and our government will always defend that. What is not acceptable is protest which hurts our economy, which hurts our trading relationships. And look, I'm here at a place that depends on trade with the United States. The people here understand how unacceptable it is to block our trade corridors. What is unacceptable is to make life unlivable for people in any city, including our national capital. It was unacceptable in February, and the government took the necessary action to end it. The local authorities today have been very clear that they will do what is necessary to prevent protests that impede the peaceful celebration of Canadians who deserve to be celebrating Canada Day peacefully in Ottawa. And I think all Canadians should know that, and I think the vast majority of Canadians should take comfort from that. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming out, and happy Canada Day. Hope you guys have a good Canada Day.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.